We have been cooking over at Lendr. Cooking, absolutely cooking. We have been so heads down for probably the last 2 months, cranking out tons of new features, enhancements, and just a bunch of really cool things that I want to go over and talk about that will completely transform the way that you guys do and run your lending company. So there are 20 or so main things that I want to go over, which I know sounds like a lot, but some of them are pretty quick. But like I said, we have been so heads down in the business for just the last few months, working and grinding and building out some of these features that a lot of people have requested, and other things they haven't really requested, but I've just wanted to work on and build out my own because I think they would be beneficial. So first and foremost, the one that I think I'm most excited for is automations. And automations is kind of this like amorphous, ambiguous term. If you're like, what exactly does that mean? So let's break it down. Basically, what you can do is now you can set up automations, which are custom workflows or just things that automatically happen in the background without you having to do anything. So for example, we have a bunch of things that you don't necessarily really want to worry about or think about in your lending business, but you still have to track them. So for example, what I'll do is I will set up a custom automation to just automatically perform those tasks for me when a certain trigger or event happens. So for example, inside of Lendr, we have a pipeline. So anytime we're originating new deals, the deal will originally come into like new application, and then it'll go to underwriting, and it'll go into processing, and it'll go into like clear, close, and then funded. Now, each step of the way, you can add certain triggers or customizations or automations, whatever you want to call them, whenever that loan moves from one step in the pipeline to another. So for example, one thing that I always forget to do is I always forget to request the title commitment from the title company. So before, I mean, it's simple, right? Like you send an email, you go and say, okay, here's the, please send me the title commitment for such and such file. And then, a day or two later, they come and they send you that file and you can check it and proceed with your underwriting. But it's just anything that I have to manually do that I have to think about, I want to remove from my workflow. So what I do is I set up an automation so that as soon as my loan moves from underwriting to processing, that it automatically triggers an email and sends it to the escrow officer, which is cool because the escrow officer always changes. So it's not a static email that I have to go in and modify. You add the escrow officer to the loan, and then every time it hits that trigger, that automation, it will automatically send an email to escrow and say, hey, could you send me the title commitment? So again, stupid little things like that, but still really powerful. The other one I use is I always forget to file the deed of reconveyance, or if you're in a mortgage state, it's a satisfaction of mortgage. As soon as we have a loan pay off, we get the funds back, you're supposed to go and notarize and send a deed of reconveyance or a satisfaction of mortgage, essentially saying, yes, I got paid off in full, I'm removing my lien, and this property is now free and clear. I always forget to do that. It is such a freaking pain. It's probably my least favorite thing about private lending, but it's just kind of a nature of the game, right? You have to go and have that recorded at the county courthouse. So I added an automation now so that anytime that a loan completes, it creates a task list item for me, scheduled for a week from today that says, hey, go ahead and make sure that you get this notarized and cleared. And if I don't do it, it'll show me a little reminder that says, hey, this task is overdue, and it'll kind of keep pestering me until I check that off. So I think you can see how like powerful these can be. And on top of that, you can do lots of really cool things, like you can set certain conditions. So you can say like, if the loan moves to this status, but the loan amount has a loan amount of $50,000 or higher, and it has a loan amount of $100,000 or less, then run this certain action. And it could be to send an email. It could be to send a text. It could be to create a task. It could be to fire an API webhook if you're, nerdy like me, like send a Slack message. Like you can trigger all of these and you can have multiple. So you could say when this loan goes to this status and it has this tag and the loan amount is this and it has this borrower, then do this, this, and this. And you can have multiple, like send an email, send a text, and add a task list item so I don't forget to do it. So anyway, I'm kind of beating a dead horse right now, but really, really cool, really powerful. There's a lot of like custom logic and things that can go into this, and I think it's going to be really, really slick. So second item is credit checks are now completely free in the system. And on top of that, we do regular routine credit checks automatically. I think it's every 30 days or every 45 days. I can't remember exactly when we run them, but it will now graph over time the kind of the borrower's like rise and fall on their credit score. So you can just kind of see like, are they on the upward trend or are they, something going on and they're on the downward trend. So really cool. Whereas before you only got so many credit checks in your, your monthly subscription, you got 5 or 15 or whatever it was broken down. But now that's done away with. You have unlimited credit checks, which is really cool. Number 3 is we have a new loan officer role. So you can set up different permissions in the system. But in the past, there was really just like an admin role who had full access to everything. And there was a supervisor role, which was like still kind of an admin. They just didn't have access to like all of the nitty gritty like team settings and alerts and all the other like really administrative powerful controls. So now we have a third option for loan officers, which is cool because it's even more restricted. And so what you can do is you can add a team member to your team, and then you can give them the loan officer role, and then you can assign loans to them, and they can only see those specific loans, which is really, really cool. The kind of the rationale behind this is we had one lender who works a lot with like some institutional capital. And so what they wanted was they wanted to segment the different loans that their officers could see. And so if it was a loan that was going to be funded by, institutional capital or it wasn't their own credit, they didn't want those loans kind of muddying up their existing pipeline. So we built this loan officer role so that only those loan officers can go in and see only the deals that they're assigned, not all of the deals in the pipeline. So this may not be beneficial for everyone, but still kind of cool to have regardless. Next thing we added was smarter loan forms. What I mean by this was we now have dynamic fields in your loan application. So say, for example, you set up your loan application and you ask for the property address and the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and lot size and square feet and the year the house was built. And, you have all these like basic information. But let's say, for example, that a borrower is not buying a single family home and they're doing a deal on a piece of raw land. Well, then you don't need all the fields for bedrooms, bathrooms, and the year it was built because that doesn't apply to a vacant piece of dirt. And so now you can have conditional loan fields so those things hide or show based on different conditional like configurations that you set in the loan. So you could do it by property type. You could do it by the loan type. So say you want to show or hide certain fields based on whether it's a purchase or a refinance. Really cool there. So I think you can see the power behind that. This one I'm a little bit embarrassed by because we should have had it a long time ago, but anyway, here it is now. Now you can customize your alerts and notifications. I know that seems like a basic thing, and you're right, it is a basic thing. It was just really, really, really low on the priorities list when we had all these other big features that people were requesting. Now you can like customize the alerts that are turned on or off. So previously, like if you had your controller in your team and they were getting like blasted with emails saying, oh, this borrower uploaded a document or this borrower is in default or late or whatever, like they couldn't really customize those. Now it's 100% customizable. Again, I'm embarrassed, but it's there now. We have some new charts on the dashboard, some new widgets which you can add, which are really cool. So we have one for reserve fund. So like if you collect prepaid interest at closing and then you kind of chip away at that with like your borrower's payments or things like that, that's now available. You can also see trust balances as a metric on the dashboard, and you can also see lien positions at a glance. So most people just do first lien position, but say you have an appetite for second, third, fourth, there's now a graph on there that shows like what of the overall percentage of your portfolio is invested in second, third, or fourth lien positions, which kind of cool. Okay, next thing we added is email logs. This probably sounds like kind of a boring one. It is, but I'll admit it's very handy. Lendr does a lot of stuff behind the scenes for you. So say, for example, you're about to collect payments from a borrower. The system will go out and it will automatically email your borrower and say, hey, FYI, you have a payment coming due, or you need to add your bank account, or you need to do this, or whatever. There's just a lot of like alerts that go out so that you don't have to think about things. But it was kind of a black box, and a lot of lenders wanted to like I want to see what the borrower is seeing, and understandably so, right? You want to see what alerts and things like that your borrowers or your investors are receiving. So now there's a section under tools where you can go in and you can see every single email that's ever been sent to anybody on your team or a borrower or an investor. And you can now see those in greater detail so that you can customize those and be like, I don't really like this one. I want to turn this one off. I want to edit or modify this one. So pretty cool there. Other thing we added is some some standard versus condensed view options. So basically, let's say you have 20 borrowers. You can see your list of 20 borrowers, but what happens if you have 400 borrowers? Now this list is just like, it's unwieldy, it's super long. And the problem was that the table was a little bit too wide in the past. So basically now what you could do is there's a standard view, a condensed view. You can shrink all those down so you can see all of your borrowers, even if you have hundreds of them, just in a more condensed view, which is kind of nice. Going along with that, we've broken up borrowers into multiple tabs. So for example, say you have a borrower that you haven't worked with in the last 6 months and they haven't submitted a loan, you haven't really heard anything from them. What the system will automatically do is it's going to move them to a column that says past, and it'll keep your active borrowers just kind of like at the forefront and front of mind. And so any borrowers that you newly create or add to the system, or have submitted a loan in the last 90 days, or have an active loan, are going to show up in that active list. Anybody else is going to move automatically to that past list. And then if they submit a loan or you want to kind of re-up them, you can do that and they'll move back to active. So again, just the whole goal of this is to keep your existing active borrowers just front of mind and present. So here's another one that, again, I'm kind of embarrassed we didn't have this before, but now it is there. You can now import all of your loans with a CSV. Previously, we kind of had to do this little clunky migration, and we've had a lot of people coming over from TMO or Mortgage Automator or some of these other loan softwares. And one of the biggest pain was moving or migrating your existing loans over. Now it's a breeze. We'll give you kind of our pre-formatted template with the different columns that you need to fill out. So it has address and loan amount and rate and all the different information you need. And then you just go into the system, click upload, ingest it, and then all your loans are there in a matter of seconds. So that's pretty slick. We now have the ability to have different interest tranches for investors. So say, for example, you want to pay an investor 9% on $100,000 for this specific date of time. And then the loan goes to the default rate. And so now you want to up them from 9% to 17%. You can do essentially like a split and cut that transaction or that time period in half. And then you can specify different rates, terms, and dates for that specific investor so that they can earn different amounts for different time periods, which we couldn't do before, but that's now really cool. We have a loan ledger. Again, something that we kind of had before, but it was a little weak. It's now been greatly improved and enhanced. And so now you can kind of see the inflow and outflow of any money that you have coming into the loan, just at a better glance, better view. Trust balances. Again, this is something I kind of mentioned with the dashboard metrics, but we didn't really have a good way of tracking like reserves. But this is something we custom built out for one of the lenders using the platform. If you have prepaid interest or you have some kind of a reserve balance, you can now manage all of those and track those inside of Lendr, which is pretty slick. Enhancements to documents. This is really, really cool. So inside of the borrower's portal, there was always a place for borrowers to upload documents. But in the past, like it would just say, okay, upload your purchase agreement, upload some comps, upload your articles of organization, upload this, and this. And then when a borrower would upload it, that would, it'd essentially disappear and would get marked as completed or done or whatever. But what would happen was borrowers would like upload things incorrectly, or like they would put a document that wasn't really a purchase agreement in the purchase agreement field, but then the field would disappear and there was really no way to like add that back for the borrowers when, and say this was not correct. So now what happens is when a borrower uploads a document, it now shows as pending for them. And you as the lender can go in and say this is either approved or rejected. And if you reject it, it will ask for a message that will get sent back to the borrower and it'll explain why it was rejected. So, in this example with the purchase agreement, this is not a purchase agreement. So please re-upload this. And then it would show back up for the borrower as a new item that they need to correct or re-upload. So again, just kind of more control, making the process a little bit more streamlined. I wouldn't necessarily say it was clunky before, but it's now enhanced, and enhanced was better. Okay, we've made some enhancements to the way that we edit document templates. Before, it was kind of annoying because you would have this preview of some text, and then you would have to click on preview and then it would switch over to this other pane, and then you would like look at it and be like, it's not right, and then you have to switch back to this other page. It was just kind of annoying to have to go back and forth and back and forth. Now those two views are side by side, and so you can see in real time, I make a change to my template, it automatically makes a change to the PDF live right there in front of you, and so you can see in real time what's going on. So that's pretty slick. Investment listings. This is really, really cool. So we now have a way for you as the lender to post inside of the investor portal and show any active deals that are upcoming that you're looking for funding. And so you can come in and you can put in a whole host of different information. Like you can put in details on the loan. You can put in really anything you want. You can add pictures and documents, whatever. But if you ever have an investor who is looking for additional opportunities or additional deals to fund, now rather than reaching out to you directly, they just log into their investor portal and they can say, I want to invest in this one and this one and this one, and it'll send you an alert, and then you can kind of do the rest behind the scenes. But still really nice that like you can advertise all of your deals and cater to everyone automatically. And there is some enhancements that we're making on this. Right now, that investment opportunities section is only inside of the investor portal, but soon we're going to make it so that you have a shareable link that you can put on your website or just text to somebody or email to somebody, so that even if they're not an investor with you currently, they can see all of your deals that you're actively looking for funding. And then they can, say, hey, I'm interested in investing in this one. And then you can kind of figure all that out behind the scenes. But that is pretty cool. So other thing we added was automated mortgage statements. So borrowers now, if you want to, they can get monthly mortgage statements just automatically added to their borrower portal. So you have that kind of functionality and history there. We did also improve and speed up the ACH payment processing. So this is kind of a big one. Before it would take, granted, we are still like restricted by the ACH network and we can only process as fast as they can process, but we changed a setting that made it so now payments come through 1 day sooner. So not earth-shattering or game-changing, but it's still always nice to get your money sooner. Last thing that's worth mentioning is we have the ability now to customize the pipeline columns. So I talked about how we have a column for new applications, a column for underwriting, a column for processing, and clear to close. But some people don't like those static ones that we just automatically had in the system. They want to add their own, which again, understandably so. So now you can add your own pipelines. You can drag and drop and reorder and customize, and you could have 200 columns if you really want to. I wouldn't want that, but now you can have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 if you want to. Some people will have columns for different team members. So they'll have one for John and Sarah and Sally. And so once John's done with their tasks, they move it from John to Sarah, and then Sarah will move hers once her tasks are done from Sarah to Sally. So you can do it by people. You could do it by process step. You could say, term sheet has been sent, whatever. Obviously you get the point, but you can set up your custom kind of systemized process and then have your loans go through that steady, one by one, and just kind of makes things a little bit more customizable for you. So, like I said, we have been busy. We have been very busy. Those are the top 20 items that I think are really worth mentioning that we've either built out or have improved. Like I said, my personal favorite one is that automations. I think that is super slick and they are so powerful. So many cool things you can do with that. But obviously some of these are also worth mentioning as well because they are pretty slick. So we have got a lot of really cool things on the, kind of on the agenda for Q3, Q4. Namely, we want to, Q3, we're planning on doing some sort of a little bit more enhancements with email communication. So kind of a CRM type functionality where you can email back and forth with borrowers directly through the system and have a log or be able to track kind of those conversations back and forth. So if you have multiple team members in the system, you're not left guessing, what did this guy say to this borrower? And am I restating something that's already been said? Or basically there's just gaps that happen in the communication when you can't see who sent the borrower what information. And so now you can log into the loan file and you can look and see, okay, this email was sent from this person, and you just kind of know where the borrower is every step of the way. So that is coming. It's a bit of a lift, but it is really cool. I think that'll be powerful. Q4, our big task is we want to build a CRM inside of Lendr. So in addition to all of the extra functionalities that we're building for obviously managing your active portfolios, we also want to build out a pipeline or a process for kind of cultivating and keeping these leads warm for investors, new investors that you're not currently working with, or new borrowers that you're not currently working with. And then once they either have a deal or they have money for you, you can quickly move them out of your CRM and into Lendr as an active individual, either a borrower or investor, or whatever. So that's a bigger lift, but we have had some requests for it. And that way you'll be able to do again, some more automations, some automated emails, alerts, things like that through the CRM capability. And then hopefully that will make Lendr be this cohesive one-stop shop. So you don't have to have, HubSpot or Pipedrive or some of these other CRM tools, which frankly could be kind of expensive as well. And then you're not worried about using Zapier to tie in all these integrations. It's just everything is housed in one specific spot. So like I said, that's a bigger lift, but it is coming. And I think that'll be really powerful when we do that. So Anyway, in conclusion, that is what's going on with Lendr. Like I said, we have been cooking. We have been busy, but all of these features are live and ready to go as of today. So check them out and let me know what you think. Okay, chat next week. See ya.